The She-Hulk series is weird. How can a show have such good moments with such bad moments, such good episodes with such bad episodes, claim to not have a storyline and it's just actually a sitcom, and then kind of have a storyline just like every other Disney Plus show? How can it lead to such a terrible ending and then just decide that it's going to cheat its way out by doing a fourth wall break and not acknowledge the fact that this series was in reality just leading to a bad ending? And how can the universe fourth wall broken into, which is meant to be our own universe, be just as unrealistic as one that has hundreds of superheroes in it? As you can tell, my feelings on the She-Hulk series are very mixed, so I am here to try and rant and give you my thoughts on the show. It started off great. I honestly think we got a fantastic introduction to the character of Jenifer Walters, and that held up for most of the show. She was one of the best parts of it, just her as a character. She was powerful, but not as powerful as she thinks, and she had a lot of personality traits that she would need to potentially grow out of as the show got on to like be the best version of herself, such as her arrogance. We then kind of got a little bit of plot developing, that being Jenifer like trying to accept herself as the She-Hulk, and then also an evil group of people trying to steal her blood and make a bunch more Hulks, which, yeah, okay, pretty interesting, but it went downhill fast. This is possibly the only Disney Plus show that would have actually benefited, in my opinion, from having less episodes. I genuinely think every other show would have really benefited from 2 to 4 more episodes, but She-Hulk probably should have been less episodes, in my opinion. It had a plot half the time, and then the other half decided it would be a sitcom, but you can't really do that. Fully commit to one or fully commit to the other, because this series just proves that if you don't do that, it's just very messy and not very good. And there is also a third plot line that I failed to mention. Titania, what was she doing in this show? She did literally nothing at all, and it's not uncommon for Marvel to have bad villains, but most of the time, at least they try to make their bad villains good. They didn't really try anything with Titania. The only thing that she does is kind of push Jen forward in her personal journey of accepting herself as She-Hulk by like stealing the brand name, and then Jenifer realizes that she likes the name She-Hulk, she likes being the She-Hulk, etc, etc. But I feel like you could have done that in a much quicker and better way. She doesn't advance the actual plot anymore. She doesn't really benefit like the sitcom side of this series. She's not connected to Jen in any way. I can't really see her being in anything in the future, and Marvel often likes to sacrifice certain aspects of a show or a movie to set up further things, but it's not like she's going to be in the Thunderbolts now. I just don't think they had to waste like half of the show focusing on a completely separate antagonist that they aren't planning to do anything with in this series. Now, the other antagonists weren't that great either, but I think either one of them would have been significantly better if they were the only one. I nearly forgot to mention how much just like complete filler there was in this show. They didn't even do the bare minimum of what at least Titania did and push Jen's like personal story forward. No, we got a full episode of Wong fighting like a regular magician, or cleaning up the mess of a regular magician. We got Jen going to a wedding, which, okay, we learned some about Jen's character there, so that's okay. And we also got an episode focused on like the immortal man or something like that. And yes, obviously in those episodes there were moments that focused on Jen. Like I said in the wedding episode, there were parts that were focused on us getting to learn who Jen is as a character and develop that character, but those spin-off parts of it were unnecessary and not very good, in my opinion. I mean, this is how bad I thought the like middle section of the show was. They made me dislike Wong. How does that even happen? I like Wong, but in the episode focused on Wong, I didn't like him. I just didn't like him, and he seemed out of character for me. He seemed out of character. Back to a positive though, the series isn't all bad as much as I've hated on it so far. The Daredevil episode was fantastic. Not just the fact that it had Daredevil, the whole episode was really good in my opinion. They absolutely nailed it, and I've seen some people say that it wasn't very good, but it was great. Daredevil especially was great. So to be fair to the She-Hulk series, they did that really well, just like they also did the intro to the series really well. I think that was a great example of how to perfectly execute what was in reality a filler episode. Like, that didn't do much for the non-existent plot, didn't do much for Jen's character development or anything, but it was good, it was enjoyable, and that's what a filler episode should be. At the bare minimum, it should be an enjoyable episode. But it did also do a little bit for Jen's character. I nearly forgot when Daredevil or Matt says that she's in a unique position to do a lot of good, like she can help people both as Jen and She-Hulk for when the law fails them. That was really good. But that is pretty close to what Titania did anyway, as Jen already accepted that, like, She-Hulk's a good thing, but it was just more of a push into doing the superhero stuff rather than just living with being She-Hulk. Now, as for the finale, here is a clip of me talking about the finale, and then I'll give my, like, final thoughts. Both the good and the bad. Okay, I'm very late, but I've just watched the She-Hulk finale, so here is what I thought as someone that liked the series at first, hated the middle section, and then really liked the Daredevil episode. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad in my opinion, and that's really upsetting because I was actually excited for this finale. Not only do I think the idea of just like using a fourth wall break to magically get to the perfect ending isn't really a very good idea and just seems like an easy way to wrap up in reality what was a messy series, but I also don't really think the fourth wall break scene was that special either. I particularly disliked what they did to Emil Blonsky. Like, he genuinely seemed like a changed man and all it took was a paycheck to make him turn into the Abomination again. Really? However, I did like how they ended the episode with him going back to prison and then Wong picks him up. I just wish he went back to prison for a different reason. Again, Jenifer Walters remains to be an incredible character and I'm excited to see more of her, just not in a She-Hulk season 2. So like I said, She-Hulk started well, it did a great introduction of Jen as a character to us, and again, as mentioned, throughout the show, she was fantastic. I think all of the other, like, pre-existing characters that we saw in the show, other than Wong, were also done really, really well, and also apart from Emil, but just Emil in the finale. Other than that, I think he was good. And I also think the action throughout this whole show was also really, really good. Now, the comedy is often something that's questioned in Marvel projects, but the She-Hulk series did it okay. Like, it probably hit more times than it missed. It definitely hit more times than Thor Love and Thunder, and quite often I was pleasantly surprised because although I wasn't liking the show at times, sometimes it could still be funny. Now, I am of course excited to see Jen / She-Hulk as a character in another project. Just hopefully that project isn't a She-Hulk season 2 like they were discussing in the finale, and is instead maybe Daredevil Born Again, or just the next Avengers movie, or are they going to do a Hulk project? I don't know. Thunderbolts, if she's like representing Emil and then he goes off and joins the Thunderbolts, I don't know, but I am excited to see her. CGI is never really like a big problem for me, but of course it would be silly to ignore the fact that it was very dodgy at times. And also, Marvel, please decide in future if you actually want a sitcom or if you want like an actual plot, because if you don't, it creates a messy series, and in those like sitcom filler episodes within this plot were a lot of the bad stuff, especially the bad comedy. Anyway, sorry to rant. I actually did overall like the She-Hulk series, as much as it might not seem like that, but I often like to critique things a bit too heavily, nitpick, etc, like a lot of my comments have said, especially if certain details that I am critiquing are only small, but they stood out to me, so I wanted to talk about them. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please do leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe for more. This is the video that YouTube thinks you will like to watch next the most, so check it out. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.